Hi there, Henry from Non-Lem Virgin, Porsche people in Uxbridge. Welcome to another video. And I have to say, quite an overdue video. People who have seen some of our other videos may have come across this car, our 964 RS. And it's been a while. Every time I post a video, people say, how's the RS getting on? When I see people out and about, they always ask the same question. Well, here it is. She is still alive. Potted history, if you haven't seen any of our other videos on this car, about 15 years ago I was doing a 24-hour race at Silverstone. One of the other teams was running a 964, had a problem with their engine. They were going to have to drop out. They actually had the problem with the engine in testing and qualifying. We're going to have to not be able to compete. So I said, well, look, we're just down the road in Uxbridge. You can borrow my 964 RS engine, as you do. They took it out, won the class, so a race-winning engine. They were going to rebuild it, give it back to me, and I was going to stick it back in the RS and carry on. With the engine out of the car, I thought, you know, I fancy restoring this. And it sat for probably 10 years with the engine out of the car, me thinking I must get on and do some refurbishment to it. And a couple of years ago, we bit the bullet and sent the car down to Auto Body Technics in Slough, and they rebuilt, or they went through the car. We've bare metal resprayed it, so I was really pleased actually when we got it back to metal. Really nice condition, no corrosion or anything on it, and they've painted it and it's back with us. The engine went down to Steve and the guys at Jazz in St Albans. They rebuilt the engine, and I have to say I'm glad we decided to kind of rebuild it again, because there was a few bits we found in there which we weren't happy with. And they've done a really nice job on that. We do have the ability to rebuild engines here, and we have done a few, but it's not really our bread and butter. We're quite a busy workshop. This workshop is primarily to support our car sales business, and so we refurbish and repair cars before we sell them, and then we also get in external service work and service and repair work. So a typical week, I'm trying to think what we've done this week. We've done air conditioning condensers, we've done some services, we've done front coolant pipes and crossover pipes in a 997. We've had a 986 Boxster in, which has had all four suspension arms, lower suspension arms changed in geometry. So, you know, brakes we've done on some cars. So that kind of routine work. So to take, you know, an engine that's going to be 40 hours plus, it's not really our bread and butter. So in this instance, good friends down at Jazz, we've used them to do it, and they've done it's what they do. That's so they're the best people to do that. So, you know, we sent the engine off. We're now putting the car back together, so rebuilding the body shell. And again, it sat here for quite a while, and finally, a couple of days ago, we bit the bullet and said, right, so we're assembling all the components we're gonna need. One of the great things about Porsche as a brand is the fact that you can still buy everything off the shelf from Porsche themselves. And so you never have a problem in terms of getting hold of stuff. I'm having to make some decisions in terms of which route we go. The other company we use a lot is Euro Car Parts. They're big motor factors here in the UK, and we have a very good relationship with them. And so they sell kind of a number of components. So some of the stuff they sell is based on price, but they also sell OEM components. So things like the brake components on this car are a good example of when we might use Euro Car Parts. I'll grab the discs and show you. So here you can see, essentially, this is a factory brake disc. It's a firm called Sebro make these for Porsche, and so, you know, we would order this actually not through Porsche, we'd get this through Euro Car Parts. Some of the brake lines. So this is an interesting component, the brake line. I say interesting, depends how boring you are, if you're boring like me. So we're going to change all the flexi hoses to the brake calipers. And the Porsche part is actually, it's got this protective coil, is a plastic coil. This is a Pagid part, and so it's a metal coil. So in this instance, we have made a conscious decision to go not for the Porsche supplied part, but to go Euro Car Parts and a Pagid part, because we wanted the metal protection rather than the plastic protection. So, but we're kind of, most of the stuff on this particular rebuild, because of the nature of the car, will be from Porsche themselves. The other thing we do sometimes do is we'll have stuff refurbished rather than replaced. So if I think of brake calipers, for instance, so there's a company we use quite a lot for doing brake caliper refurbishment. They do a really lovely job. So it's all stripped down, we have new pistons, seals, caliper plates, they're replaced, and then it's refinished nicely. So, you know, to all intents and purposes, that's a brand new caliper. And kind of money is no object in this rebuild. I'm more interested in getting it done right. But by the same token, there's no point in wasting money. So, you know, the cost of refurbishing these is a lot less than buying 4 new calipers. And so in that instance, you know, we're happy to kind of refurbish. Other components that we have had refurbished. So all the sort of cross members, suspension arms, that sort of thing, we've had them media blasted, so they're nice and clean now. So it just, again, it lets you see what you're working with. So if there were any problems where we had to replace something, it would help us spot that. But it just makes it a sort of neater thing when it's reassembled. Ignore the track rod ends on the suspension, they're being changed, so they're the old track rod ends. What we've done when we took the car from the body shop, we kind of bolted on 4 corners of suspension so we can roll the thing around, put it on donor wheels, and so we're now pulling it all apart and rebuilding it. Another thing which we had to make a decision on, or I had to make a decision on, was the suspension. So I've ended up going with the original suspension. I've gone for Bilstein original suspension. I didn't want a really harsh ride on this car. It's a road car. It's not a kind of track day weapon. If I want to go on track, I've got GT3 Cup cars, which I can do that with. So I've decided to go with factory original Bilstein suspension. When I spoke with Bilstein, they actually only had one side of these and they didn't have the other side in stock, and I was a bit concerned that we were going to have to do a lot of messing around on the front struts by cutting off the brackets for the brake lines and re-welding them on. But fortunately, through Porsche, we've managed to get both sides, so pleased about that. And then the other thing that I've done is we've got new springs, and again supplied through Porsche themselves, and so the correct rating for an RS. Why have I fitted new springs? Couple of reasons really. One, I didn't want, if you had areas of corrosion on there that act as a focal point as you use it, there's a danger you may find the spring snaps. And also, I just kind of think after 30 years of life and sitting under weight, and you know, if the kind of metal changes or the spring rate changes, you know, I wanted to have it as an original brand new spring and damper setup. So we've gone for new core springs all round as well. Other parts that I've ordered from Porsche themselves, door cards. These early cars, very handy, this tray here. I think Porsche probably said design them as some sort of cooling or aerodynamic aid, but actually they're just a really handy table to put stuff on. The door cards. So these door cards are made, they're like a hardboard back here, and over a period of time, over 30 years, there's a plastic membrane which fits between the door body and the card, and they get damaged where people go and mess about with internal components of the door, and you get moisture on the bottom of the hardwood here, and so they just get a bit swollen and a bit messy, and so because I can get these from Porsche themselves, I've treated the car to a couple of new door cards, and so it'll just neaten the thing up a bit. You'll also notice that we don't have any holes for door speakers. Normally you'd have a door speaker in there. I've had to decide what I'm going to do. Originally I thought about not fitting a stereo at all to it and keeping it just a pure sort of RS. I am going to fit a stereo to it, and I'll talk a bit about what we're going to fit later. It's partly to kind of play tunes and also then to use Waze, which means I'll need to put the iPhone onto it, which means it's got to be Apple CarPlay. And so that kind of gives you a hint as to which route I'm potentially going to go on the stereo. And then we'll hide some speakers in the car. We'll get our auto electrician down and he can sort of hide a couple of speakers. I'm not going to go for a massive audiophile, great sounding stereo, but it just wants to be a functioning stereo. The soundtrack in this car is the engine in the back. People have said the last couple of videos, oh, it would be nice for you to strike the engine up so we can hear the engine running. I can't, because there is no engine in the back. It's just a big hole in the back where the engine once was. So it's a shell at the moment, so obviously you can't hear the engine running. So yeah, door cards we've got, and then just various bits which we're, as we're putting it apart or putting it back together, you think, oh, I could do with refurb, once replacing because it's a bit old. So we're just going through and changing, various components. But largely, it's kind of the body of the car, the main bulk of the car is still original. It's not something that was in such bad condition that, we've had to kind of rebuild everything. It's more a very heavy refresh rather than a restoration. I don't know, maybe it is a restoration. I always think restorations are where you kind of end up with a car with loads of holes in it and you're welding new, floor pans in and stuff. And that hasn't needed this. When it went back to bare metal, it was in such lovely condition, the metalwork. So, there was no need to do that. So I don't know, is it a, restoration? Is it a refresh? Who knows? But yeah, I just thought I would do a quick video so you can see that the car, she does still live. If you've got any thoughts or comments, feel free to post them and I'll reply, or you guys might reply to yourselves. I don't know. I don't claim to be sort of the oracle of all knowledge with stuff like this. Suspension choice. You guys may think I'm making a mistake and you'd fit something else suspension wise. That's cool. So yeah, feel free to sort of post some comments in. But yeah, made the video. Car's still there. Once we finish our work on the body shell, I may make another video as we sort of progress through the rebuild process on this. And then obviously when the engine goes back in, we'll make another video and go from there. So yeah, but in the meantime, I'm Henry. We're 911 Virgin, the Porsche people in Uxbridge. Hope you've enjoyed watching the video. Look after yourselves. Goodbye.